As part of this Azadi Amrit Mahotsav, I know it is after a long time that we are assembled on this virtual platform, a very good platform on which we have completed 76 lectures.
Oh.
And wide topics, and in the same diversified topics. Today again, it's a very open topic and very interesting topic. And that topic is nothing but scientific publishing, how to write scientific papers and how to publish them. So it's a very important topic for every scientist, every student, every faculty member, because you know the Indian position, we have to really improve a lot, though there is a significant rise in this. And let me just introduce the speaker, a very renowned speaker, Professor Serge Savary, who is the visiting scholar at the UC Davis in US and honorary professor at one of our Indian universities, that is GBPUA&T University of Agriculture and Technology. And most importantly, he is the editor-in-chief of this Food Security, a very important journal. And I think he has, to his credit, more than 3,000 research papers which he has reviewed, which he has edited. So he's a very renowned person. Professor Savary is a plant pathologist with a specialization in the field of epidemiology and system analysis. His research addresses the forces that shape production situations in agriculture and the dynamic linkages between crop health and the climate, agronomic, and socio-economic context of production situations. His work aims at applications for sustainable crop health management and food security. He has spent a large part of his professional career in the tropical world, and that includes the West Africa, Central America, Southeast and South Asia, with different national and international institutions. His work has been or is focusing on plant disease epidemiology and IPM in vegetables, field legumes, and cassava, which is in West Africa, complex system management in Central America, epidemiology and disease management in wheat and grapevine in France, and management of rice health in the tropical Asia. He is involved in international research and education network in plant health, along with colleagues in France, in India, that is your GBPUA&T University, and in the USA, the UC Davis, Pennsylvania State. He has been elected the Vice President of the International Society of Plant Pathology, and he was also elected Fellow of the American Phytopathological Society. Since January 2019, he is the editor-in-chief of this ISPP journal, which is very popular, that is your food security. Thank you very much, Professor Serge, for having agreed and sparing your time to deliver this lecture for our universities, for our institutes on this very important topic. And I'm sure that this lecture will provide a lot of critical points for the improvement, and so that our rejection rate is really reducing. Because mostly what happens once we are submitting the papers, the next day we receive sometimes the rejection letter. And maybe this is just because of few points which we don't take care. So all those tips, guidelines, because you are you have handled so many journals. So I think it will be better to know all these details from you. And our approach should be such that we should focus more on the science than on the personal interest. That no, I have to publish more papers, so I have to just submit the paper. No. So let us see that what the science requires, and then accordingly we can reshape our research areas, we can reshape our publications. So over to you, Serge, and the floor is yours now. Thank you. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Agrawal, for this so very kind introduction. It's a great pleasure, and it is actually an honor for me to be speaking before you. I am very honored to be invited to give this talk. You know, I'm just like you. I'm a scientist, and we all face the same problems. And a few days ago, I had another manuscript rejected by a journal. It happens to each and every one of us. It always is painful. It's always a painful experience. I will be sharing my slides in a minute, but I would like to give some of my personal motivations for giving this seminar to your network. The first of them is that I have been collaborating and working with the University of GBPUA&T in Pont-Nagar for many years, and so I've started to give a class there, and that class is about scientific writing. And so what I will be presenting to you today is the outline of this class. And so I am a beginner. I am a beginner in this field, in teaching that. And as a beginner, I'm asking your opinion about what I'm saying, about the class I am giving. And if you have comments to make or criticism and suggestions to make, I shall be very glad to receive them. It's also very easy via email. My email is easy. It's ssavary01@gmail.com. So it's very easy to write to me, and I shall be grateful for any comment you might have. So that's a first reason. Another reason is that I have been working. I am not an Indian scientist, of course. I'm sorry about that, but I have been working with Indian colleagues for many, many years. And what I realize is that actually, despite all the efforts and despite all the work which is being done in India, very little of the research of the science which is produced in India is being published in international journals. Why is that? You could say, well, the reason is that a lot of them are being rejected. Well, this is not the only one reason. It may be a reason, but there is another reason, which is very simple, which is that India is a very, very big country. It's a country of 1.4 billion people. It has a huge, a tremendous scientific community. It also has a very, very effective and efficient and very big publishing industry. And so there are many journals in India. And therefore it is legitimate that Indian scientists would prefer publishing in Indian journals because that's their country, and it concerns situations that pertain to their country. The downside of this, however, is two things. One, the research which is conducted by India is downplayed by the outside world, and this is unfair. This is not just. The world should know, the world should be aware of the science which is conducted in India. And there are many things that India does that very few other countries are doing. And India's research is in no way inferior to research which is done elsewhere. It's just that it is not now. The other reason for publishing internationally is that the world, in the crisis we are living today, the world needs India's science. India's science can make a difference in the crisis, in the situation where the world currently is. It is real. It is important. From my viewpoint as editor of a small journal, I can see that there are contributions that should be made more broadly available to the wider public, to the wider scientific community. Food security as a journal is at a crossing road between two common goods. One common good is science, and we all are scientists. We are a collective dealing with science. And the other common good is food security. It's a common good. There are laws in India. India is one of the only country, one of the very few countries where laws have been passed to prevent people to be hungry. And there are very few others. There is Brazil, but it doesn't work very well in Brazil. In India, it works much, much better. It has problems, but nevertheless, by law, people are not supposed to be hungry. And this is a tremendous achievement in terms of policy, in my view. So this is, but there is a lot of science going on in India, which the world should be more aware of. And this is one of the primary reasons why I give this lecture. There is also the need of the students. There is the need of the colleagues, of the professors, especially the young professionals in science. And so the overview of my talk would be like this: why give a class on scientific writing to university students? What is the general format of the class? And then I will share with you an overview of the class contents, that is to say, foreword and principles, key message carried by a manuscript which is being written, how to define a blueprint for the manuscript that you would like to develop, and I will explain what I mean by blueprint, the tables and figures, the writing plan, the literature search, the writing techniques, and I will not spend much time on this. And then some critically important elements, last elements: abstract, title, keywords, authorship, references. Then I will share with you some afterthoughts, which I share also with the students. So our world today is a world of appearances. It's a world of words and communication. Communication seems to be everything nowadays. And that is true in science, where communication is so paramount. In many societies in the world, there has been a shift from from a hidden science, a science which was kept in circles, among religious groups, even with specific words and even languages and scripts, as in India, as in Sanskrit in India. And that hidden science of the past has become, during the modern age, a public science. And this has led to the current advocates of the citizen science even. And that is because science is hard to convey. It's not easy to convey science to colleagues and to convey science to the public. And yet never has been so much said or written on science than today. We see thousands and thousands of publications every year. But what kind of science is this? Many scientists are lost in the maze of scientific communication channels. And this is especially true for young professionals and students. I think that education and training of young professionals and students is extremely important. It is important for them as individuals. It is important for their institution. It is important for their country, and it is important for the citizens of their country. And there are many reasons for this. For instance, Indian scientists, speaking of India, Indian scientists and the Indian scientific community need to be better recognized internationally. At present, it is not sufficiently well recognized. The international science community beyond India is often unaware of the scientific progress that is achieved in India. And so science in India must not fall in the trap where it has fallen in the Western world. In the Western world, like in the USA, but also in Europe, there is suspicion, there is distrust of science and scientists by the general public. And this is because of miscommunication to a large extent. And so publication in peer-reviewed scientific journals, it remains the gold standard for science communication. And there are many reasons for this. One is that it remains the main output target for young science professionals. For instance, an institution like ICAR has in place a number of procedures where publication numbers and publication quality is a key criterion for evaluation. Individuals, evaluation of also of organizations. Publications in peer-reviewed journals remains a reference for individual and collective evaluation, therefore, and they are still generally considered a trusted basis for technology development, for extension and education. And so this presentation today is meant to summarize a class which is given at GBPUA&T University for graduate students and young professionals in science. So the first section of my talk is about the format of the class. Broadly, it is a very informal class The audience can be very large, from 30 to 50 participants. It is difficult to have more than 50 participants. Actually, I had 60 plus, but it's not a workshop. It's not a workshop, but despite this, there is extensive exchange between me and between the professor and the participants through a number of questions. Why is it you want to write? How difficult is it for you to write? Do you think you write well? And why do you think you write well or not well? Why would you like to publish an article? How do you proceed with writing an article? Is it important for you to publish your work? And why is it important for you? Do you read science? Do you read books? Do you read articles? How much of it? And also, how do you read? Do you read on a computer, on a tablet, or maybe a smartphone? Or do you print the article and read it on paper? And are you taking notes on what you're reading? There are many ways to read. And so the outline of the class is essentially in 4 elements. The first element is motivation. I speak a lot of motivation. It's 30% of the class. It seems very, very big, but I think this is a very big part. Then I speak of principles. I speak very little of techniques, because those techniques are underpinned in the principles anyway, and even maybe in the motivations. And then I speak of the last elements for a second fraction of time. And so this is the outline of the class. There are 20, I think there are 21 chapters. There is the booklet, which I have shared with Dr. Agraval. Hopefully this will be published by ICAR and circulated on paper and on the web. And so there are sections such as forward, principles, developing a key message, a good key message, and so on and so forth. So in blue, in red are the 2 chapters dealing with the motivation. These are the most important chapters, in my opinion. The blue is about principles. It's how the principles to developing an article, a manuscript. The green is about the writing techniques. It's fairly quick. And the brown, the last elements are very important, but I do not spend such a lot of time. And there is a 21st section at the end in terms of afterthoughts and the meaning of achieving success. What is success for us scientists? So if I could summarize all the class I give, because I don't want to swamp your mind with many, I have many slides, but I don't want to take too much of your memory. There is one slide to remember. This is the core of my class. As you see, there is a blue rectangle with white lettering on it. This is a slide which I show to the students. So whenever you see this in my slideshow, it means that this is a slide which I use in the class. And so in that slide, I show this cascade of things. First, or 0, the elements, I will explain. Results, materials and methods, discussion, introduction, abstract, title, authorship, and keywords. This is what I propose to the participants as the right order to writing a scientific article. This is the way to go in my view, with the first and the critical roots of elements, and I will develop this later on. So the core of the class, 40% deals with principles, the development of a key message, the elements of an article, the tables and the figures, the writing plan, and the need for a good literature search. In terms of forwards and principles, we'll give a few example slides. I spend a lot of time with the participants in terms of on the issue of motivation, the true needs to write, trying to see it not as a core, but instead as a useful, meaningful, and necessary activity as part of any scientist's life. Convincing the participants of the need to be both confident and happy to write. One cannot be writing well if one is not happy with what one is writing. So you need to be reasonably confident and you need to be happy. And slowly make participants see that they do not necessarily write well, that progress in writing is both hard and slow. It is hard and very slow. It has been very, very hard to me, and I'm still learning. It is very slow. trying to convince participants that they do not write only for themselves, but that there is a higher purpose, that science is a common good, and that they want to modestly share their part to this common good. And so there are higher purposes than the usual reasons. I have this exam, I have this PhD to take, I have this promotion, and so on and so forth. So in the foreword, I have these different elements: the writing, the difficulty of writing, writing well is useful and important, the learning to write in scientific English, science as a collective good, and the responsibility we have in terms of scientific writing. The ultimate reason for publishing a scientific article, and this is a slide I show to the students, is that the science which is not published is lost forever. It is lost forever. I try to speak about the key message, and then in terms of key message, one element I want to share with the participants is that tens of thousands of manuscripts every year are rejected and never published. And thousands of articles that are published each year, even those which are published, are never cited. And those are lost. And this is because the key message was not sufficiently strong. It was not sufficiently well articulated. So we have also with the participants, we have the classic reasons for submitting a manuscript. It is expected for a degree, a promotion, for expanding a publication list. There are no good, these are not good enough. These are not reasons that are good enough. There is a need to overcome the necessity of the moment and to convert that personal needs into a scientific reason. One must have a scientific reason to submit a manuscript. Otherwise, there's no need to submit. There is no, philosophically speaking, there is no reason to submit a scientific article if this scientific article does not provide, that does not convey something new, something that contributes to a collective good. And so a good key message must be specific. The point put forward must represent the result of the work, and they have direct implication with current questions. A good key message must be short. It should be written on maybe on a piece of paper on the corner of a table, but just no more than 3 sentences, no more than 5 lines. And this is an exercise I give to participants. Try to write try to outline the key message that you have in mind in 3 sentences and no more than 5 lines. And you need to be perfectly clear, first of all, to yourself as author, and then the co-authors, if you have, and with the colleagues who are not directly involved in it. One has to be very, very perfectly clear in this key message. First of all, with oneself. And so the key message may involve the specific results achieved. This is again a slide I show to the participants. You see, it's the title is a blue rectangle with a white text on it. So these are the elements which can be shown in the key message. And underpinning a key message are the novelty of the science. And we have a discussion with the audience. I have a discussion with the audience of what is the meaning of novelty in science. So it touches, the class addresses some philosophical issues, and that is true. We need to address some philosophy. After all, a PhD is a doctorate in philosophy, isn't it? So we talk about what novelty is in science. And the goal, a compelling level of novelty against a backdrop of scientific knowledge. In order to be bringing about novelty, you need to know something about the backdrop of what's been done before. And so this is where literature search is so very important. And so I'm trying to convey the meaning of this to the participants and say, you are not in a competition. You are trying to share what you do. And so you need to know what other people are doing, not because you compete with them, but because you want to work with them. Then the elements of the article. So these are the elements. The elements are the tables, the figures, and the key pieces of results that could be written in the text. They are arranged sequentially. Each of them must provide a unique, non-overlapping contribution to the manuscript, and all of them have to be connected via the text. So there must be very regular and streamlined reference to these elements within the text. And then again, each element, what I call elements, those tables, figures, or piece of results, they must derive from one of the components of materials and methods. And then each element in turn generates one of the components of the results section. And those elements of the results section lead to one component of the discussion. So in short, this is this flow chart. We start with, let's start with the backbone at the center, the elements, the tables, the figures, maybe pieces or elements of results. And you have different methods on the left-hand side. So these are different methods, 1, 2, 3. And method 1 may generate element 1 and element 2. Method number 2 may generate element 3, a table. Method number 3 may generate element 4 and element 5. These are tables or figures. So these are shown in the results, and the results has six subsections on 1, 2, etc. up to 5. Has 5 sections. Sorry. And those results are taken up again in the discussion. So the result is a very, very dry part of the text where one writes only what is being seen on the figures and the tables. Whereas so results are very dry, whereas the discussion may be much more developed. And we have to prepare the elements, assuming that readers are lazy, and very often they are. They are lazy, they may be busy, or both. And so we live a world of overwhelming information. Too much information, too many information destroys communication. And this, if one makes figures and graphs too complicated, the manuscript will be very hard to write and to connect with the elements. So one has to consider a limited number of figures, a limited number of tables, and each of those categories must be made as simple as possible. One tip about the review process is that the reviewers are exceedingly busy. They have no time. They review the work on their own unpaid additional working time, so they cannot afford to be patient. So the elements, those tables, those figures, they must convince them at a glance that your submission is serious, interesting, and worth their time. And then speaking of success, well, success is already with the fact that one is able to preparing elements that are satisfactory to you, author. As an author, you are happy of the figures and the tables, and that you are confident and happy to write on them. Tables and figures. So I speak a lot on the tables. What is a good table? Trying to make it short, simple, and ask yourself the big question: will this table be readable? Make readable tables. Avoid those huge, tremendous, lengthy tables which never are being read carefully. And avoid using, these silly numbers like a yield of 4.22364 kilograms per area unit. No, it has to be simplified. And so there are many ways to do that, and I explain this. Or a sum of square of 12,654.39535. This doesn't mean anything to any reviewer. The figures are important because they have a durable mental imprint. A figure can be very, very effective in conveying the interest of the reader, but a bad figure may be very destructive. So figure is difficult and very challenging and very important. It has to be simple, clear. It has to convey exactly what the reader needs to see, and all useless details should be removed. Then I speak of the instruction to the authors. I speak again of the figures, which must be a standalone with a comprehensive caption. The writing plan. As you can see, the writing plan comes towards the end of the class. It's number 10 only. So this is what the slide I was showing before with these 9, 0 to 8 elements. This is again the flow chart. This is one also that could be the main slide of my lecture to the students, to the participants, trying to show that the backbone of an article is something which is not written in the article. The backbone is this series of elements, tables and figures. Then I speak of the necessity of a good literature search. I mentioned that. So it is paramount. It involves analysis. It's not just collecting PDFs and references. No. It requires analysis. It requires careful reading and analysis. Very often students do not have the time for this, I know, but this is true. And I speak of the literature. All the value good literature can have, for instance, in showing where are the knowledge gaps, and this is a very good entry point for a good article. And it's not meant to compare one's work with the other. It's not a competition. We are contributing to a collective good, to a common good. And I speak a little of the writing techniques. I don't spend too much time on this, but what I try to say is I advise participants to make short sentences. I advise them to use the very simple structure: subject, verb, complement. I advise to use as few adjectives as possible. I advise to use very few complements, as few as possible, and to not use adverbs if possible. If one is using an adverb, it means to say that the verb itself has not been carefully chosen. So it means that one is not writing very efficiently. If you have no need for adverb, it means your style is right. And then the last elements would be abstracts, title, authorship, keywords, references. All these are very, very important. I do not have much time to talk about this, but this is about the good abstract, a conclusive sentence about the significance, the implications, and the perspective. So I provide the participants with tips on how to do this. There is something which is important also, which is the title. A good title is difficult to develop. It really is. My view is that it is safe to develop a seemingly dull, yet sincere and complete title. It is important to not change the title during the review process unless it is requested by the reviewers or the editor. It's important to be short. A short title is the best because there is an abstract coming after it. So a short, a short yet complete title, something which says all the words that the reader needs to read in the title. In the title, one has to be simple and direct. Do not try anything fancy. Fancy titles can be motivation for irritation in the reviewers or the editor. There has to simply a good title has to be short and informative at the same time. It's not easy. Then the authorship, I leave this blank. This is an ethical issue, something which would deserve a class of its own. It depends on the lab, it depends on the scientific community, it depends who is working with whom, etc. The keywords are important. It's important to not use a keyword which is not truly linked to the actual work. The references, I'm providing information on this. For instance, never cite works that has not been read by the authors, because this would be dishonest otherwise. You need to cite work that you know, to cite work that you have read, and so on and so on. All the ethics which is behind these, and do not cite only the articles from famous journals. Do not cite only the most recent references. Sometimes very old articles are excellent sources, and so, for instance, in terms of methodology or concepts, so those articles are very well worth citing. And then I close the class with a general discussion about achieving success, and more specifically, what is the meaning of an acceptance of an article? Except celebrating, what is that meaning? And the meaning, the long-term meaning of publishing your research. And so I'm trying to bring the audience to think about this. Success for a scientist is something complicated. Success. We are not selling cars. We are not selling. We are not selling stuff. We are not selling our science. We are not trying to become famous. We are simply trying to contribute to science. So, what is success for us? And this is my class. This is what I try to convey. And with this, I am finished with my talk. I shall be very, very glad to take questions.
Can you unshare this?
Yes.
Or I can do from here.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent presentation and excellent points you have provided for this based on your experience. And we have to really assume that the readers are lazy.
Yeah.
Very important point.
Yeah.
So I know there may be several questions, but I can allow a few of them. So can you raise your hands if you have any questions, electronic hands? I have with me a very important person who has published a lot of papers, Dr. B.S. Dhillon. Who was the director, vice chancellor of Punjab Agriculture University. So, Dr. Dhillon sir, you want to add any point in this, because you also have a lot of experience regarding this. Let me just provide the permissions to them to speak.
Good afternoon, Dr. Dhillon.
Yeah, let me just provide the permissions. Yes. Dr. Dhillon sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks for very kind words. And thanks to Professor Serge Savary. Is it pronunciation correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm very sure it is not a correct one. Anyway, it's pleasure reading you. And in fact, I will say that I have learned how to write scientific papers from the reviewers when I published in American journals. I'm from genetics and plant breeding, so crop science was number one on priority, or genetics, or biometrics, or biometrica, or euphytica and plant breeding, and nowadays theoretical and applied genetics. I'm quite old, so I see some disturbing trends in publications. The review process has weakened. Speed has increased many times.
Yeah.
It's so fast. And it used to be a wonderful review. And the predominance of commercialization of publication.
Yes.
And again, I will not try to give any hint. The publishing companies which are doing wonderful work, now they are publishing like machine, and they want the reviewer to do everything in 21 days.
Yes.
3 weeks or so. We start getting how to, and then in India we had additional problem of linking what you said in your introductory remarks also, linking the publications with the promotion. So many predatory journals have come up, and so much rubbish things are being published. But in olden times, I used to say you can publish any rubbish thing provided you know where to submit it. Olden time also very poor journals, but on the whole, I was very happy, and I will again sum up that I being a I'm not knowing the English. I mean, got educated in a middle school, and I learned reviews from the this writing from reviewers, from the comments.
I agree.
So how to have some quality publications or improve the quality? Quality is there. Let us not say
that is true. That is true. I completely agree with you, Professor Dhillon. The truth is, though, as you said, the reality is that reviewers have less and less time to review the work, and therefore it is becoming more and more difficult to secure good quality reviews, because there is the other side of the scene, which is this: me as editor-in-chief of the journal, I am facing tremendous difficulties in finding reviewers who are willing to do the review, and then sometimes the review is no good, is not helpful. It is just saying accept or reject. This is not my question. My question is to make a review of the work, and so at the journal which I lead, our goal is to provide service to the authors, and that service is reviews, and we try to provide quality reviews to the authors. Many journals nowadays are making very sloppy, superficial reviews, and the issue is, and there are statistics, we are being judged, the journals are being judged on the basis of the speed of the turnover. They have to be fast. If they are not fast enough, they will be removed. Me, I don't care. I prefer to be slow. I prefer the journal to be slow and to provide good quality reviews. But many journals nowadays are making very, very quick reviews, often very poor quality. And the reality also is that it is so quick, so fast, that today you see even very famous journals publishing things that are rubbish. It happens. You've seen this happen in Science, in Nature. They have to withdraw things. Why? Because they were too quick. And so it is difficult. India has a very strong and powerful publishing industry. This is very good. I think that the balance will change. I think that there is a pendulum. Maybe it is absolutely true, as you said, that publishing is a big business, and there are very large publishing companies. One is Springer, the other is Elsevier. There are smaller fish in the water. One has to know the journal in order for the authors, taking the other side of the coin. As an author, it is important to take time to choose the good journal, and the good journal is not necessarily the one which will make nice comments and accept your paper. The good journal, if a scientist wants to grow, a good journal is the one which will provide you with a good review.
Yeah.
And irrespective of the outcome. Then again, if you are a PhD student, if you have 1 year to finalize a manuscript and get your manuscript accepted by a journal before the defense, and if your position at ICAR is at stake, then what will you do? This is very, very hard to students. And now I realize that students only have 1 year to conduct their research and to at least have one paper published in a journal. This is extraordinarily challenging for them. It is almost impossible. It nearly takes 1 year to get one good article published nowadays. This is what the time it takes. Otherwise, it will be published, maybe, but it will be published maybe in not so good journal, where
Yes,
the reviews is not good, and where maybe the impact factor is okay, but the meaning of impact factor is very arguable. And so my thinking is that two things. One, there should be a class on scientific writing very early at the MSc level, starting at the MSc, so that students start very early to know how to do literature search, how to write a report, because it's important you can get started with that, and how to write, how to read carefully, and how to present articulated reasons why you take this subject for your MSc research. These are all very good exercises for the students to take, and then maybe in the future, and then continue the class in PhD, the PhD years, once a year, and then what would be wonderful, but I don't know if that is feasible in the Indian system, is to provide PhD students with more time for their research, because otherwise they cannot publish. It's very, very hard. Or at least one thing that could perhaps be done is that 1 year and a half before the end of PhD, making sure that each student is aware, is informed of the subject of the research. So if the student is aware of the subject of the research 1 year and a half, 6 months before starting the research itself, this is enough time to do a literature search. But all you said, Dr. Dillon, is true.
Yeah, I just remind you, because you're also now, I think, of my age. Yeah, in the instruction of this Tri-Society, Crop Science Society of America and American Society of Agronomy and Soil Science, it was written that I'm talking of 1970s, write draft and keep it for 6 months. And now we want to do everything within 6 weeks or something like that. How the world has
makes
changed.
no sense.
Then another dichotomy which I faced. I worked a geneticist who was very strong in quantitative genetics and mathematics. He shifted from mathematics to quantitative genetics. He always wanted to write big formulas, and I used to tell him, Professor, let us focus on the editor. They will not understand. So what is your view? Should we try to show what we have done very explicitly, or should we try on the editor that he should pick up something, if not all? I used to say that, oh, this paper will not be understood by 99% of Indian
Thank you.
readers. He
Yeah.
said that, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So what should
Thank
be our
you.
focus?
Thank you.
Because
Thank you very
citation.
much, Dr. Dillon Sahab. Excellent points we have raised. And
You may want to know. You may want to know that the first manuscript by Albert Einstein was rejected right away because nobody understood it.
But everybody is not Einstein. We
No,
don't
that's
like
true.
up to that level.
so thank you, sir. May I ask? There is Dr. Anil.
Yes, sir. I'm
Yes.
present there.
Yeah.
Hi, Serge. I'm Anil Kotastana from Indira Gandhi Krishi Vishyavidhalaya, Raipur.
Hello, Anil. How are you?
Fine. How is Leticia?
It's a pleasure to hear you.
I wanted, yeah, I really wanted to talk, ask you regarding. We are a little confused when we publish a technique. Which part has to be taken to the material methods and which part is to be taken to the results action. That is really confusing, and that's how I am not able to publish so many of my techniques. And the second part is what about the graphical presentations or graphical abstracts, which some of the journals they really prefer to have, because they are the very nice way to have an expression, and they will really tell you a lot many things about the
Yeah, I understand.
paper. Yeah, that's what I would like to have your views on that.
Okay. My feeling is that, okay, in a standard research paper, the materials and method is something exceedingly important, of course. In my view, I would write it in a very dry way. I would not hesitate to make as many citations in the materials and methods, because it may be useful for the reader to know that the methods used in the work is related with somebody else's work, etc., etc. So I would try to make several things. First, I would try to make the materials and methods section as structured as possible. Very, very dry, extremely dry, very articulated, and with all the necessary technical references. No interference, no comments on the methods used. This would go in the discussion. Just explain what's been done and how it's been done, and using as much references as is necessary, but keeping things as short and clear as possible. It has to be very, very structured. Then it may be that a manuscript is rejected because of the methods used. Then this is why in the discussion, a first point in the discussion is a discussion on the methods used. Why is it that we use those methods and not others? What were the alternate options of methods? Why is it we did not use them? Why did we take this path of methods? Why did we chose? And it's okay. Why did we choose to take this approach and not another one? This is a very, very important point of the discussion, which many authors forget to make. It is critically important. Now, there are, I think, Dr. Kotastani, I know that there are journals that are specialized in methods, and so maybe you are referring to those, but in this field I am not knowledgeable. I don't know. As far as the graphical summary is concerned, I would go for something simple. I would go for something which is conveying the idea, something which is conveying like a figure. I would try to go for something that is not crowded, that is not complicated, that can be grasped very easily. Remember that this graphical abstract will appear on a web page, very, very tiny, very, very small. I would make it very plain and simple, and not so sophisticated.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Serge.
Thank you, Serge.
And we take one last question. I know a lot of persons, they just want to have your presentation, the copy of the presentation, which we can circulate to them. So Dr. Girdhar is asking, Girdhar, dear Professor Serge, I would like to know why so many journals are getting converted nowadays to open access and started taking the APC. And even some reputed publishing groups have started this particular thing. So any response to this?
Yes. Yes, it is simple. There is a controversy. It's not over. On the one hand, there is the traditional system whereby you had an editorial board and reviewers. The reviewers are anonymous. They provide an evaluation of the manuscript, and the decision is made. And the publishing company publishes the article when it's accepted, and the publishing company is making money from the subscription, which is made by individuals sometimes, but most of the time it is making money through subscriptions taken by universities, institutes, and so on and so forth. That's the traditional system, the one which is still in force, which is still the majority. Then there is the other system. The other system is the one whereby the authors pay in order for their manuscript to be published. This way, the article and the journal, which often is e-journal, this e-journal becomes free for the reader. So it makes it accessible to anyone in the world for free. It makes science free for anyone. The problem behind this is that there are authors who do not have the money to pay for publishing their work, and that's one thing. The other thing is that, in my view, is an ethical issue, is a very, very serious ethical issue, which is that I would never myself pay a journal in order for my work to be published, because then there is a conflict of interest, of course. You pay, and then your paper is published. This is not okay. This is unethical. There is an issue there. And so I don't know where this is going to go. I have no idea. And I know that some journals are asking for horrendous levels of money to get a paper published. This is not making sense to me. So there are policies. Some countries are in some countries, in African countries, the cost of publications are very less or even zero. But in a country like India, which is not seen as a poor country, the publication costs still are very high. It's not as high as in the USA or as in Europe, but it's still very high. On top of this, it excludes from the publication system individuals who may do research. Think about the social sciences, a psychologist, a sociologist, an economist. These people may work by themselves. They may not need to belong to a particular institution. A philosopher. You don't need to belong to a university to be a philosopher. Even maybe it's recommended to not be a part of a university to be a philosopher. Anyway, you cannot publish your work in a system like this. It's impossible. And so I don't know what I may sound old-fashioned in this, but I think that the old system was the good one. I would believe that, speaking of a common good is better protected by a collective, and in the worst case scenario, that collective may be supported itself by the government, by the government, such as, for instance, in India, ICAR has taken subscription to a number of journals all over the world, and this way, ICAR scientists and students, they can publish in those journals. This is a fair way for ICAR and the science to make progress, because students do not have the resource. Some labs do not have the financial resources either. This is when money comes into play together along with authorship, it opens the door to a lot of ethical questions.
Thank you very much, Serge. I know there are a lot of other questions, but because of this paucity of time,
Okay.
we will not take more questions. But we will circulate the copy of your presentation to all the persons, to all the students, and that can be really of much help. And you are also thinking to bring out a publication also, a small booklet, so that also we can Yeah, that also we can just circulate to all.
Very
So
good.
that's really a very useful, thoughtful presentation. And the key message is that let us be specific, the short, and perfectly clear in writing, in our writing.
And also happy, trying to be happy. It's difficult those days.
To be happy also.
To be happy nowadays is difficult, but to try to be happy with one's work, it is a very, very strong motivation.
And we should have the novelty in our presentation. So that's really a very good message. So with that, Sagi, we just thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for this. And we look forward
Again,
for many more interactions with you. And we want to really take advantage of your experience, rich experience, because having reviewed more than 3,000 research papers for so many journals is not a small task.
Yeah, I'm very, very proud to be talking with you today. I would like to thank you all to have been attending this discussion. I would like to remind Dr. Agrawal, if I may, that I am available to give this class online using the class I'm giving to Pop Nagar. So if you want me to give a class to your networks,
yeah, sure.
I will make myself available if you think this is helpful.
Yes, this is certainly helpful, and we'll just approach you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks all my esteemed audience.
Thank you very much
for being present here. So thank you and bye-bye. Namaskar.
Bye.